Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishnan, and here basically we are discussing about the 187th part formula. And in this, basically, we are going to discuss few old topics and few new topics. The old topics are basically subscription plans. So, what actually subscription plan is, how basically the governments are connected with subscription. That basically each and everything basically we have already discussed, right? What is actually the subscription plan and how subscription plan basically are directly connected with the power companies, energy companies, and nuclear power plant, because World Bank basically can't directly give the data to the each and every power companies, energy companies, and power companies, but they are 100% connected with each and every power companies, nuclear companies, and energy companies. They are 100% connected, but they are not basically each and every time basically they are not connected, but they are periodically getting connected because there might be some reason, because the data it might possible that because government actually don't know anything, right? Government don't know about the subscription plans, right? Because the government says that government for example government sends the this many population are there basically, but government knows, the top level executive might be knowing that the each and every oxygen basically which is getting to the human, that basically are sent by the subscription plan groups, right? This basically the top level executive might be knowing that the oxygen supply basically that is 100% getting supplied by the subscription plan only. So what oxygen you are going to take next day, that basically decided by the subscription plan groups, and this basically the government, the special people basically might be knowing this, that which type of data each and every person basically have to get. So basically government people, if they says that if they basically use the power in very bad manner, then basically it's very difficult basically to stay human only basically in each and every cities. But the government people mostly basically, as per basically the Bollywood industry says that basically when I talked to Bollywood industry when I was basically in Mumbai, that time basically one of the person so told that each and every most of government employee basically who are in the top level executive, they basically all are human clones. They are not human. They are dead people, and their bodies are getting cloned, and they only listen to whatever they have told. So you can just imagine the basic. That's why basically the controlling power basically only human basically sometimes don't listen, but human clone basically whatever things is written in the computer, that only he is going to do whatever happens. So this is basically the major difference between human clones and the human body. So that's basically different topic that we basically also we are going to discuss. And another topic basically we have already discussed, that is the World Bank. World Bank is sending the data of each and every human, each and every objects exist in the world. Sorry, here basically I'm taking the example of Vadodara city. In Vadodara city there are more than 1 lakh buildings. So World Bank knows that there are more than 1 lakh buildings in Vadodara city. So according to that only they have passed the data. So you can just imagine, according to the need required by the government, the data is are basically getting passed. So 1 lakh data they have passed, that 1 lakh buildings are there in the Vadodara city. So according to that only the data are passed. Basically. There are 35 lakh people, and each and every people detail basically also they have passed. So you can just imagine the critical level also. This also basically we have already discussed. And the another topic basically is in real basically the USA is in front of the world, right? USA basically is the in front of the world, right? In the number one, as a number one position. But in real, it's not like that, right? Because each and every virtual software basically they are creating. For example, assume that .NET basically is created from the C++, PHP is created from the VC++, or assume that it might be created from C++. But mostly basically it might be created from VC++, which basically does not exist also. So that might be some reason that VC++ has exited long before. Basically there was basically some case was ongoing against the VC++, but that basically might be some you it might be some basically the task they have to do. And basically any how many people are knowing this, that VC++ is ongoing. How many people are basically knowing this, the VC++ is ongoing? That record basically was the reason that test, that means some plan might be going. Because from PHP I think somebody some task might be done by certain groups. It might possible because VC++ from VC++ only the PHP might have created basically. But VC++ is ongoing, that is 100% sure. So because there are lots of functionality, because I have also done the VC++, there are lots of functionality which only VC++ only can do. VC++ only can do. For example, microchip processor coding, that mostly basically C and C++ only can do, right? Sometimes Java can do, but the major basically task of the microprocessor task are done in the C and C++ only, right? Because Java is also restricted some with some boundary, right? So .NET is assumed that it's created from C++, C and C++. PHP is created from VC++. So in front of world, basically it's a Microsoft. Sorry, the USA is in number one. But in real, basically it's not like that, right? Microsoft is number one software company that basically everybody knows. But in real, basically they have created one .NET. So .NET basically is a virtual basically software, you can say. Virtual software where you can't touch the thing, right? You can't touch the software. You can't touch, that means it's a virtual, right? When you basically load the .NET, that time basically the uh, software gets load, but that is loading on the base of the certain power supply which is getting supplied, right? That means what? From 1,000 cities, that as here basically don't go with the number might be totally different. It can be 10 times, it can be 20 times, it can be half also. So here assume that from 1,000 cities the .NET is created. So whenever the .NET is going to load in your computer, whenever you are assume that it's installed also, and in installation the Microsoft has given the approval also. So whenever basically the .NET is going to load in your PC, that time basically it's taking the power supply algorithm. So what is that power supply algorithm? That basically B and ME people can understand. But actually the algorithm is whenever the basically chip level programming happens, that time basically the algorithm are basically drawn. So so whenever basically the .NET software is getting loaded, that time the power supply of the .NET is getting also loaded. That is basically already loaded. That is basically already loaded, but it activates. It gets activate when basically the .NET gets loaded. Microsoft Word basically it's already there basically in the power supply is already passed, but it activates. It get activates when the Microsoft Word is getting loaded. So basically, each and every power supply algorithm of the softwares are basically already loaded in your PC on the base of the power supply which is getting supplied. So that topic also we have already discussed. So in front of world USA, but in real basically 1,000 cities might not be in US because it's not possible to store to create 100,000 cities in only in US. It might be in Ireland, it might be in Europe, it might be in Korea, it might be in Bangladesh, it might be in Pakistan, it might be in UAE. So it might be anywhere in the world. So the algorithm which is already drawn, that is basically the .NET algorithm, .NET Power algorithm. .NET Power algorithm basically, this name basically I have given. .NET Power algorithm means what? Whenever you are going to load the .NET, that time basically the power is going to gets activate. On the base of that power only the .NET is getting loaded. So you can just imagine the dangerous software industries also. But in real, basically, we can't see the real picture, right? That if .NET is getting loaded on the base of power supply which is passed to your computer, on the base of that only it's getting load. It's not getting load automatically. This .NET is not getting loaded automatically. So you can just imagine the dangerous level the software industry is also. And this basically is one chain system that is basically connected with energy, power company, and the nuclear power plant. And another basically is, for example, in Vadodara city there are 35 lakh people, right? So according to the 35 lakh people, whatever data basically the government has passed, that 35 lakh people are basically in Vadodara city. According to that, only the basically the World Bank is going to pass the data, right? So this all basically you can't basically control the World Bank, right? One normal city basically can't control the World Bank, right? Because if they have passed the 35 lakh people data, that is basically the 35 lakh oxygen people, oxygen of the 35 lakh people, 35 lakh people are going to take oxygen in the city. So for that, basically they have to pass the 2 month oxygen data, and the government has passed the 35 lakh people data. So whatever data government has passed here, basically I'm not taking which data they have passed and which type of data they have passed that we want. So sometimes basically the specific data are passed that this person is supposed to get this type of oxygen, that person is supposed to get that type of oxygen, that person is basically supposed to get this type of oxygen. So basically the government basically says that which type of data basically has supposed to be passed for each and every people. So that basically government decide, right? It's not like that the government is not knowing anything and admin department is passing that guy. It's not like that. The government is knowing each and everything, right? Because without sign, they are basically signing blindly. If the admin department says that we are passing this type of all data, that we want specific data for this particular person, that means for specific data, the government is 100% going to sign the data, sign the agreement. Yeah, basically, because World Bank needs the proof that you have basically asked for specific data for this specific person. So World Bank basically are always getting cleared and is always clear about the data which is required by the Indian government. So here basically we are taking Indian government because I'm currently in India. So that's why basically I'm taking the example of Indian government. So like this, you can just imagine the data which is getting passed. So if you are in Singapore, then basically Singapore government is going to pass your data to the World Bank. If you are staying in Ireland, then basically Ireland government is going to pass your data to the World Bank. So basically, according to the data which is getting passed. So for example, you got the you applied for the Singapore and you got the work permit. So to have the work permit, at least basically 1 month basically it takes. So within 1 month, basically the data of the particular person is getting passed to the Singapore government also, because Singapore government is telling that we have to keep each and every person's record perfectly. So whenever basically he is going to reach to the Singapore in the airport, that time basically he is going to get the oxygen data. So you can just imagine the dangerous level the world is. It's not dangerous, it's very dangerous, because the visa system also you can say the how the visa system is also working. So visa system basically you can just imagine the visa system is created in one of the softwares, is created from the one of the softwares, and the software is handling by the certain country, it might be handled by the certain countries, right? It's not like that the it's countries are not handling. So visa basically who is giving the visa, they are approving the visa and telling that basically you can go to the Singapore. So before he basically reached to the Singapore, his oxygen power supply is already reached to the Singapore. So it's not basically reaching to the oxygen bottle or everything. That's basically in the environment basically, and he that's gets changed also. How basically that's basically you can just imagine the critical level also. Whenever basically he's moving from the India, that time basically his oxygen supply from the India gets cut. and it's all always it's automatically gets connects to the Singapore power supply data. So you can just imagine the dangerous software basically which is getting handled by the each and every countries basically. It's not dangerous. It's basically you can say the most dangerous. And this is basically nowadays not this is basically not happening since 1 or 2 days. It's basically it's a long process, right? So visa system basically has started from when? It's a long process basically. So company the each and every countries are moving from how many years basically that we can't say also, right? So the system basically of the visa are also very critical. So that also basically we have already discussed. The .NET power supply basically, which is for example .NET is getting loaded. This also we have discussed, but little bit detail. .NET power supply basically is it's basically you can say the power supply which is getting passed to the .NET, which is passed to the power supply company, which is getting passed to the computers. That is basically you can say the power supply company basically have the one specific data that they basically don't know the it's a .NET, right? The .NET basically only the software people knows. Yeah, this is basically the .NET. But power supply company knows no. Basically, they don't know. It's a power supply of the .NET. So the .NET power supply is getting passed to the power supply company, and then basically they are passing to the each and every computers. So whatever software company basically having the data of the power supply of the .NET of the .NET architecture, basically we can give this name as a .NET architect. So you can just imagine basically the, up to what level the architect is also, because the person who are working as a .NET architecture, they basically know, right? The .NET is created from the thousand cities. That's why basically the architecture post is also created, right? Otherwise, basically there is need of any architect post. There is need of any architect post? No, I don't think. So the .NET architecture post is also created, right? If any post is getting created by the human resource department, that is basically we have already discussed. There are few set of groups basically in India who are basically at the top level, and they are basically working with the software industry. They basically says that basically we have to create this one post that is basically the software architect, that is basically the .NET architect. So this is basically architect you can say. That is basically the .NET is created from the thousand cities. So they basically have the entire algorithm basically. Whenever the .NET is going to load, at what time basically this power supplies and this data is going to connect to the that. So basically the power companies knows that, for example, one .NET is getting in .NET basically one CRM software is going to create, right? One CRM software is going to create in the .NET. So .NET algorithm basically is .NET power supply algorithm basically is getting passed to the computer. That is one thing. Then basically the software person basically who is working with the .NET software, that data is also there. Then basically whenever he is working with the .NET, that time basically the virtual connections happens between the power supply, and that basically whatever work basically he has done, that data are also basically taken by the power supply company. So you can just imagine the chain supply of the .NET power supply. That is basically name given as a .NET architect. So this also basically we have already discussed. Now basically the new topic basically we are going to discuss, that is basically the subscription plans. Basically the government takes the subscription plans, right? So the government knows that 35 lakh people are basically staying in the Vadodara country. Sorry, Vadodara is not country, it's a city. So in basically Vadodara city, there are around 35 lakh people staying. So 35 lakh people oxygen power supply is going to pass. That basically the government, government is knowing, because government is passing the data, right? Government is passing the data of 35 lakh people that this person is going to exist. It's not like that. The government basically don't decide that this person is not supposed to get oxygen. This person is supposed to not supposed to get this type of oxygen. This person is government basically don't say that this person whenever you are going to send the data of the oxygen tomorrow, then his hand is supposed to be broken. So they basically don't do like that, right? Government basically can't do like that, because government don't have the authority also. If they are having the authority, if they says that they want to break the hand through the oxygen of the particular person, then basically police verifications also happened. They have to take the permission of the police also, that this person basically we have to give head chakkar in this person's body. Then basically we need the permission of police. So if the police basically don't give the permission, then basically they can break the head. They can give the head check or oxygen. No, basically they can't give the head check or. But the police are basically by default. It's a basically you can say cyber crime. Cyber departments are there, right? Because it's a digital world, right? The oxygen which basically each and every person are taking, that are basically the digital, through digital only basically they have it's happened. So this comes into the cyber groups basically. So cyber group basically decides that this person oxygen which he is going to take tomorrow, that has to be like a head chakkar. He's supposed to get head chakkar. So this basically police also do the verification, right? Whether the energy groups basically are telling that he is to give supposed to give head chakkar, then basically police also do the verification. Basically, who is that person who is supposed to get the head chakkar tomorrow? So police also do the verification, right? Without verification, they can't give the approval also. So assume that they have approved and they have not approved. So whatever the things going to happen, if they approve, then basically by default that person is going to get the head checker with the help of the police department. So it's not like that the police is not knowing anything. Police is also knowing everything. That he got the head checker with the help of the police department. But the police department, each and every people knows. Only digital handling groups know. That are basically the cyber groups. So whatever the basically oxygen each and every person is going to take, that is basically approved by the cyber department only, and they basically calls them also. That they do the verification also, that whether they basically tracked us or not. So for that they calls you to the police station. Some reason basically they calls you and they basically do the verification also, that basically the person has tracked you also or not. So you can just imagine the verification level also. The police basically do the verification also, whether the person basically has tracked or not. But this basically very rare happens. They don't call each and every people. The person basically they feels that it's very critical, then basically only they calls. But for each and every person basically they don't call. But they do the verification. That is 100%. The person basically got the head checker. He really got the head checker or not? And if he got the head checker, and to what level basically he got the head checker? So you can just imagine the critical level thing also. So here basically we are not discussing this all the thing. Here basically we are discussing about the subscription plan which government is selling, that we are basically passing the data to the World Bank, that this data has to be passed, and according to that data basically he is going to take the oxygen. So this basically we have discussed, but not up to the level, basically up to the approval level. That approval level basically we have not discussed. So this was basically we have discussed the approval level, basically how the governments approve the oxygen data, that within 2 months basically whichever the groups basically has supposed to get which type of oxygen. So basically they don't know basically, right? This person is going to eat this person is not going to eat that. Then basically how they know? That is basically the city, basically the cities, malls industry, the shopkeepers basically they knows, right? Within this city, what are the human needs which is passed to the city? That basically they know they have the data. So according to that data only basically they do the sets the oxygen power supply of each and of the 2 months basically. So 2 month within 2 months basically which type of human needs are going to be passed to the cities, to each and every city, that basically the subscription plan groups knows. Why? How basically? Because the subscription plan basically which data they are going to pass for 2 months, according to that only the human needs data are passed to the malls with the help of the companies. And the company basically of the human need creation company basically, they basically creates the human needs on the base of the data which is supplied by the nuclear power plant company and the energy companies and the power companies. So they basically knows, right? This data basically we are going to pass for the 2 months, and according to that only basically you create the human needs. So you can just imagine the chaining system which is already generated. So it's not like that the chaining system is generated day or night. It's a basically huge plan, right? Because they don't do the day or night plan. So you can just imagine the 2 month subscription data basically government gets from the World Bank. So whatever power supply which the each and every cities they are getting, they are that data basically World Bank has passed 2 months before only. So it can be 2 months, it can be 3 months, it can be 15 days also. Some country basically, some cities basically gets the data mm, according to the data basically which they have. Some country, some city basically gets the data for 15 days. Some countries gets the data for 20 days. So that depends upon the population of the country. Sorry, the city basically. So for more population basically, then basically it might possible that less data basically they pass 10 days, 20 days, because as per the population basically the oxygen data are basically getting lots of, because the roadmap basically of the oxygen that basically is created in the environment, that basically the digital world, right? That is the digital world, and nowadays that it's a digital world ongoing. That basically digital world of the computer basically. It here basically we are talking about the digital world oxygen which data basically each and every human are basically getting, and that basically is passed 2 months before only. So this basically was new topic. Then basically uh, the subscription plan basically pass the data. The World Bank basically passes the data according to the human disease also. The according to the blood cells. For example, one person is having sugar, then basically the data are passed according to the sugar only, because they are not going to pass the data that he should get more sugar, more disease. So they are not going to pass, right? So it's basically not possible, right? If it's possible, then basically the local government is also involved in this. So you can just imagine the local government, each and every power basically the local government is only having. They only decides basically which type of data, which type the requirement basically we have to pass. According to that, basically the World Bank only basically passes the data, because this the local people basically, the local state level basically the person that is the chief minister, they don't know, right? They don't know the each and every city, right? Because they are just visiting the cities and then they are going to the state level. But the city level things basically are controlled by MLAs, corporators, that basically groups that handles the each and every people, right, of the cities. So they basically knows which type of data they basically know, right? They know that each and every people basically are getting oxygen power supply from the subscription plan groups. That basically they know. That's why basically they have reached up to that level. They are controlling the cities. That's why they are controlling the cities, right? So they know that basically this person is going to get this type of oxygen after 2 days, after 3 days, after 1 month. So each and every power, but they can't set their basically data, right? That level of authority basically they don't have. Why? Because their power supply data are set by their uh, groups basically. That basically who basically sets the data, that basically nobody can able to track that, because it's very critical data. That's why it's very difficult to track which data basically which person is going to get, because sometime basically it might possible that the data which is passed by the World Bank, Sometimes data might suddenly get changed also because the World Bank might be handled by some certain groups also. It might be also possible. It might be also possible. How basically I will tell one example I will tell. The VC plus plus basically which was banned in front of the world that created PHP and lots of stuff basically are also done by the PHP. It might possible that from PHP energy lots of persons basically oxygen also might have generated. It might possible, right? From PHP they want to do certain task and the certain task basically which they are going to do that only few people are supposed to be know. For that basically first they done the ban of the VC plus plus in front of the world. So in front of the world VC plus plus is banned. So just see the software industry how it's working. So they are basically first of all done the ban of the VC plus plus. Then basically they created the PHP. Anybody is knowing that the PHP is created from the VC plus plus because VC plus plus is banned. But nobody, if anybody says that this disease basically he has got from where, which location basically he has got, from which data he has got the disease, then basically nobody can track. Why? Because it's created from PHP. The disease is basically created from PHP, and from PHP, sorry, the PHP is created from the VC plus plus, and VC plus plus is banned in front of the world. VC plus plus is banned in front of the world. So can anybody can able to track this? It's not possible to track also. Why? Because government is telling that they have banned. So there is few groups basically who are handling the government also. That also you can say. One example is this. So government means IT government basically you can say. Because IT cyber groups are there. So in cyber group basically group people basically might be knowing that VC plus plus is not banned. Lots of work is ongoing, but it's banned in front of the world. And from that basically the PHP is created. And PHP basically just one DLL, right? And you can't decode the DLL because if you will do the decode, then basically the VC plus plus group is going to track you, and there is no software basically created of the decode also. If it's created, then basically it's not published in any of the search engines. If you publish, then only basically the people can able to track that. So you can just see the dangerous level the software industry has reached and has done lots of stuff also. So like this, basically you can just imagine the VC plus plus, which is banned in front of the world and has created PHP and has done lots of work. So you can just imagine, right? The world of the software industry basically. Lots of people says that VC plus plus is banned. Now basically we can't work. And the VC plus plus basically the Microsoft also don't give the support. If it's basically loaded in the your PC, then basically the activation will get expire. So you can just see basically if it's piloted, then basically they expire after certain times. If you basically reinstall it, basically then also it will not get reinstalled. So you can't work in the VC plus plus in from your PC. But those group basically who knows that the VC plus plus is banned in front of the world, but it's activated for them. So that PC list basically, that is basically the computer list that VC plus plus groups have, right? The VC plus plus groups basically, the VC plus plus construction group basically, they have the list of computers which are going to use VC plus plus, and there basically the VC plus plus stuff is going to be happen. So that stuff is basically one of the stuff is PHP software creation. That is basically the PHP DLL, which is created and has done basically lots of stuff. So they have done all the stuff basically, and like this basically the VC plus plus group basically says that nobody can able to track that because it's already banned, right? Banned long before basically. I think it's in 2000, not in 2000, in 1999 only basically the VC plus plus was banned. But the people basically who are basically doing some stuff basically the hidden stuff basically, they basically says that VC plus plus is banned, but for us basically the VC++ is ongoing. The VC++ is ongoing. So we can just imagine the groups also, but they basically are up to that level. Basically, they have up to that level knowledge also. Then only basically they are working in the VC++, right? They have to create one PHP also. It's not so easy, right? If you are working with the any of the framework of the PHP, how basically critical it is. It's very it takes lots of time, right? It take lots of time to work in one of the framework also of the PHP. If you create any framework, then basically how many times it takes, how many days it takes to create one framework also. But here basically it's a PHP creation. PHP has created from the VC++. So this topic basically we are going to discuss in detail after some video, after certain videos. Now here basically the Bollywood industry basically they have each and every information basically they have the information of this VC++ data also, right? So Bollywood industry have each and every videos because the display part is of the stuff is task is of the .net of the Bollywood groups. Each and every story is basically that is basically creating the blood cells. Whatever story is basically his each and every person basically is having some certain set of stories. According to that only basically his body works. According to that only his body structure works. So according to that only basically his blood cells is getting generated, right? The blood cells process is happening according to his stories basically. So this is also basically one of the activation deactivation also happens of his blood cells. So this is basically the 187th number part, and in 188th we are going to discuss a little bit more about this topic only. That is basically the subscription plan data.